The entire digital world we live in, every search, every map, every video you stream, can be traced back to a single argument between two students in 1995. They disagreed on almost everything. And yet, from that conflict, they built a machine that now answers 8.5 billion questions every single day. We think of Google as an indestructible fortress of information. But its original code, its very DNA, was hacked together in a dorm room. This isn't a story about a company. It's the story of how a simple academic idea escaped the lab and completely rewired the human brain. It all started at Stanford University. Larry Page, the son of a computer science professor, and Sergey Brin, a math prodigy from Moscow, were an unlikely pair. When they first met, they found each other obnoxious. But they were both obsessed with the same problem. In the mid-90s, the internet was a chaotic mess. Search engines existed, but they were clumsy. They worked by simply counting how many times a word appeared on a page. This meant you could create a website, write the word pizza 1,000 times, and boom, you were the top result for pizza. It was a system begging to be cheated. Page and Brin had a radically different idea. What if, instead of analyzing what a page said about itself, you analyze what the rest of the internet said about it? Their breakthrough, an algorithm they called PageRank, didn't count keywords. It counted links. A link from one page to another was a vote of confidence. And a link from a highly respected page, like a major university or news site, was worth 1,000 links from random blogs. They weren't just indexing information. They were building a reputation system for the entire web. Their project, initially called Backrub because it analyzed the web's backlinks, started on Stanford's servers. It quickly became so popular, it was hogging a huge amount of the university's bandwidth. They knew they were onto something huge. They renamed it Google, a play on the word Google, the number 1 followed by 100 zeros. It was a name that perfectly captured their mission: to organize an impossibly vast amount of information. But an idea, even a brilliant one, is worthless without cash. And their next move would take them from a dorm room to a garage that would become the most famous in Silicon Valley history. That garage belonged to Susan Wojcicki, who would later become the CEO of YouTube. In 1998, she rented it to Larry and Sergey for $1,700 a month to help pay her mortgage. This was Google's first headquarters. It had lava lamps, beanbags, and a bright blue carpet. And it was on the porch of this suburban house that they gave a demo to Andy Bechtolsheim, a co-founder of Sun Microsystems. He was so impressed that halfway through their pitch, he said, "I have to go," and wrote them a check for $100,000. There was just one problem. The check was made out to Google Incorporated. But Google Incorporated didn't exist yet. The check sat in Larry's desk drawer for 2 weeks while they scrambled to legally form a company just so they could cash it. With that first seed of money, they were real. But they were also running out of it, fast. By 1999, they were handling 500,000 searches a day, and the growth was exponential. They secured $25 million from the biggest venture capital firms in the Valley. But this new money came with immense pressure to actually make money. And this led to the company's first great internal conflict. See, the two guys who built what would become the most profitable advertising machine in human history originally hated the idea of ads. In a paper they wrote at Stanford, they argued that advertising-funded search engines would always be biased towards the advertisers, and that it would corrupt their pure mission of organizing information. They resisted. But the financial pressure was mounting. So, in 2000, they launched AdWords. And this is where their genius kicked in again. Instead of big flashy banner ads that plagued the rest of the internet, Google's ads were just simple lines of text. They were discreet. And most importantly, they were relevant, targeted to the user's search query. It was the perfect compromise. It made money without ruining the clean, simple experience. It was a masterstroke, and the world responded. By the end of 2000, Google was powering 18 million searches a day and had even become the default search provider for their biggest rival, Yahoo. The floodgates were open. In 2004, the year they went public, they launched a product that seemed insane at the time. Gmail, with a 4 gigabyte of storage, hundreds of times more than competitors offered for free. They were handling 200 million searches a day. The next year, they launched Google Maps. Then in 2006, they made a purchase that many at the time thought was crazy. For $1.65 billion, they bought a small, chaotic video sharing website. That website was YouTube. Think about that for a second. Google was already indexing the web. With Gmail, they were inside our private communications. With Maps, they were charting the physical world. And with YouTube, they were about to own the world's creativity. But they weren't done. In 2008, they launched both the Chrome browser and the Android operating system. They weren't just a destination on the web anymore. They were building the very tools you used to access it. They owned the map, the car, and the highway. By 2011, they were hitting 3 billion searches a day. The noun Google had officially become a verb. This explosive growth was creating a new kind of problem. The company was becoming a sprawling collection of moonshots and core businesses. Self-driving cars, smart home devices, medical research. It was all getting tangled up with the search and ad business that paid for everything. So in 2015, they did something radical. They restructured. They created a new parent company called Alphabet, turning Google into just one of its subsidiaries, albeit the biggest one. Critics said it was just a clever way to hide the massive losses from their more experimental projects. But it was also a clear signal. Their ambition was no longer just about information. It was about everything. Today, Google, under Alphabet, is an empire. Its revenue is hundreds of billions a year. It handles over 8.5 billion searches every single day. But the same dominance that made them a household name has also put a giant target on their back. Antitrust lawsuits in both Europe and the United States accuse them of being a monopoly, of using their power with Android and search to stifle competition. Debates rage about the immense power they have over our data, over the very information we see and believe. The little startup from a garage is now one of the most powerful and scrutinized entities on Earth. So, when we look back, what was the real hack? It wasn't just a PageRank algorithm. It was a series of brilliant hacks on human psychology and business. They hacked advertising by making it useful. They hacked product design by keeping it simple. They hacked corporate growth by acquiring and integrating perfectly, turning potential competitors into pillars of their empire. The two students who argued about everything ended up building a system of universal knowledge, but in doing so, created a new center of power the world had never seen before. Their original mission was to organize the world's information. Their next great challenge will be navigating the consequences of succeeding. The story of Google is far from over, especially as artificial intelligence reshapes the world of search once again. What do you think the next chapter for this company will be? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And if you want to see the hidden stories behind more of the companies that shape our world, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching.